Hello and welcome to the 12th episode of the Flawed Therapist podcast. And today I'm delighted to welcome Becky Field, a creative coach who I've been lucky to have been the client of. And I'm really, really fond of Becky and her work. She's a fantastic human being. Becky, welcome. And so delighted to have you. Thank you
Oh,
so much. So, maybe can you say a few words about how you got into the coaching field, using creative therapies in your coaching? I'd love to hear just a little bit more about that before we get into the flawed situation.
yeah, thanks, Masha. It's great to be here. Like I say, as a coach, I use therapeutic techniques, but I'm obviously not a therapist. But how did I get into it? That's interesting, isn't it? I think it was I totally burnt out through teaching in 2014. But I think most people who go into teaching go in it because we want to help people. Um, and when I felt so kind of bereft after to leaving a career where I didn't know what else I would do because it's kind of like I went from graphics into teaching graphics. Um, I ended up going to a small community coaching group in Romley with a wonderful coach called Hannah. And I remember sitting there, and it was a 12-week course. I remember sitting there thinking, this is lovely. But I think also what happened was I just found myself again in the matter. I wasn't just with her for 12 weeks, I was with her probably for about a year or so. Um, and I just found myself and I thought, this is wonderful. And of course, being egotistical, if we're talking flaws, at the time, I went from feeling like the lowest of low because I didn't know what I was doing, up to being massive inflated ego, thinking, oh, I could do this. And then suddenly found out that actually teaching it is a transferable skill, but it isn't coaching. So I ended up training in December 2017 in coaching, and that's where it all started. So, and the creative side now, because I used to teach art and design and media graphics, is wonderful because I've always brought creativity in, whether that be on a one-to-one basis or in groups. Um, my preference is groups, and I just think, it's just something I find easy. Yeah, it sounds awful, I don't know, but I find it easy. I find it enjoyable. It brings me joy, and that's why I find it easy. I think because it's so joyous to do.
Fantastic. Well, we will return to the big ego thing later. And now, what is hard about being a creative coach? What's not so glamorous? Because, coaches can come across as totally glamorous and sorted, and you're a special one. You're a creative coach. So what's not so great about doing
Well,
what you do?
I think, Masha, we all see it, don't we? Everyone sees it on social media. These coaches who uh, talk about, yeah, I've got to be very careful here, who talk about making, 10,000, 3,000, whatever, in a matter of a shorter space of time. Now, my experience has been, I've coached a lot of coaches, has been that it isn't as easy as just throwing some posts out on social media. And and it working, working, and we've got £10,000 in the bank within, a day or even 2 hours. So what is hard about it is, I think every coach I've spoken to, they absolutely love the coaching side of it. They are exceptionally skilled in what they do. It's the other side that we tend to forget about the marketing. Now, over the years, like 9 years now, I've done loads of marketing courses to try and be the best marketeer. But actually, what I've found is the best marketing is just being myself and just going and meeting people and getting to know people, because you can write whatever you want on social media, but if they don't gel with you and if you don't gel with them, that's what makes it hard. I always say it's like pushing water up a mountain. If there's no connection, if there's no rapport, it is really hard work. Um, so what is hard, you will identify with this because I know we've had loads of conversations about that, is having far too many ideas and not enough time.
Yes, I can definitely relate to that, Becky, and I know you are doing some incredible creative work as well as, having your art exhibition
Yeah.
recently, which I was lucky to visit. I know it's finished yesterday.
Yeah,
Did
I
you?
took it down. I took it
Yeah.
down yesterday.
Oh,
Yeah.
do you want to say a couple of words about your art exhibition because that was really
Oh,
special and poignant to see.
yeah, so the body of work that I produced for the exhibition was over the last couple of years, in the sense that I had I had a case of cyberbullying for myself around about 21 months ago. And it shocked me to the core because usually I'm quite gobby. I'm usually quite opinionated, but there was just something about this. Um, that took me right back to like 19 years ago when I was full of shame around my drinking, etc. So I recognise the behavior, I recognise the feelings more than anything. And I completely lost my confidence. So the story of the exhibition was where it started, i.e., by an email, ridiculously by an email, words that were used in that email, how it made me feel, and how it took me back to childlike behaviours, I suppose, and thinking. So the whole of the exhibition was about the growth over the 2 years, the healing that I've had through a number of people, you being one of them, as you know, um, and how all of the people that I've worked with through the healing element has reshaped it. I would say it's reshaped my coaching business in the sense of this is the way forward. It's nurturing, it's loving, it's kind, it's creative, and it's joyful. So the whole of the exhibition was about going through that dark time and then coming out and finding the joy, um, and ownership, I suppose. Especially the boots,
Mm, mm.
especially the boots.
Yes, you had as part of the exhibition various pairs of shoes and boots,
Mm.
including some very young, children's shoes, and then growing up into big girls' boots.
Yeah,
Which
exactly.
that was a very moving
Mm.
aspect of it. I'm really fortunate I've got a chance to see it, but I know there will be more. So you mentioned, Becky, that you kind of used to drink and you've been in recovery
Yeah.
um, for a while. I don't know if you want to say a few words about that. I know it's kind of
Oh
possibly
yeah,
quite
no.
quite a tender place, but
Mm. I'm
I
really
know
not.
that personal stories are really useful for other people to
Yeah.
learn from and be inspired by.
Yeah, I'm very naughty. I keep butting in. I do apologise if I'm annoying people. So sorry.
You never
I'm
need to
really,
apologize.
I know, I'm really happy about talking about my alcoholism, to be honest, because I always think I was 30 when I got sober and now 51, as from yesterday. Um, so
And
I'm now
happy
20.
birthday. Happy
Thank you,
birthday.
thank you.
I posted
I
on your
did.
Facebook, but I didn't have a chance to say it in person. So I hope you had an amazing
Oh, it's a
day.
beautiful day. Thank you. Um, yeah, I'm happy to talk about it because I always think I was 30 when I got sober, and I always think about maybe the woman at home drinking by herself, thinking she's the only one who feels the same way that I felt. So I've never shied away from talking about it because I think, well, if I didn't have somebody talking to me about it, I wouldn't have known there was a way out. Um, so yeah, so I don't. I used to sponsor a lot within AA, but I don't do it now, mainly because of the work that I do. But I'm always open for conversations around drinking, and because I people think of an alcoholic is they pour the vodka on the cornflakes. That's like an old fashioned thinking, but you know, I never did that, by the way. But
Mm.
but I drank in secret. I drank secretly, to the point where, again, talking of shame. those feelings of shame were really, really strong. Hence, when I talk about it, I know every time I talk about it, I'm smashing that shame and it's got no hold on me anymore. So, um, yeah. So
Mm.
I know I celebrated my birthday yesterday, but my proper birthday that I really do celebrate is on the 16th of September, where I'll be 21 years sober. Um,
Wow, wow, Becky. What was, well, what was the hardest thing about that recovery journey? What was hard?
I think the hardest thing about it was I didn't believe I was that bad. You know, they talk about the alcoholic denial,
Mm,
and I mean, I say this when I'm in the rooms when I've been asked to do my share. I say I actually thought I wasn't that bad
mm,
at all, and then when I honestly thought when I went to the treatment centre, so I was 3 months sober when I went into the treatment centre, and I honestly thought they were going to pat me on the back, talking about ego, pat me on the back and go, I've never seen anybody, Becky, recover as well as you have in 3 months. This is what I thought. And they didn't, funnily enough, and they said to me, we need you in tomorrow. And because they could see what I couldn't see, which was that I was probably about to drink because nothing had changed. I just stopped drinking. And thank God they did, you know, because I wouldn't be sober today. I wouldn't be alive today probably without them being so.
mm.
Um, I wouldn't. They were honest, but they were absolutely tough on me. But they needed to be because I was in complete denial that I wasn't as bad. So yeah,
Yeah, thank you
that
for,
was the hardest bit. It's hard work, that though, isn't
yeah,
it?
yeah, thank you, Becky. No, that's being brought out of denial. It's quite a shock, isn't it?
Yeah,
Um,
yeah.
and what was the thing that, well, I'm sure there's not just one thing. What was most helpful for you on this recovery journey? What maybe one or two things supported you most?
Yeah, so okay, so I always contribute it to a man called Steve Patterson. So he is a counsellor, but he's also, I always thought, how can his eyes bore into my soul? And I thought, what is about him? And then when I found out he was a hypnotherapist, I thought, now I know. Um, he basically, this is what I attribute to it. When I was in treatment, he was my counsellor. So first of all, already they chose a male for me to have a male counsellor. So they knew that my a lot of my healers have been men. A lot of my healers have been men. It's only actually in the last 2 years that I've had female healers. And but what he did over that time, and you'll understand this, is he refrained from giving any affection, any praise, any um because I was so full of ego. He was so kind of he wasn't cruel. He wasn't cruel to me, but he was different to me because I was his what am I? His client, I suppose, in this therapeutic environment. But he would always show affection to other people. And he wouldn't to me. Affection in the way that he'd praise them for doing well and great work in that session, etc., and said nothing to me.
Oh, wow.
And
Mm,
which I know it sounds bizarre. And then one day on a Saturday, because you were rewarded if you'd been a good girl, and had a massage, and I just burst into tears with this touch of this woman, and it was, it was wonderful, really, and the music and everything. I don't do massages anymore, and she said, "Who's your counsellor? Should I go and get him?" So I told her who it was, and he left me. He didn't come and get me to rescue me.
mm,
Right now, it sounds harsh, but honestly, it was just incredible because they knew what they were doing, because it was kind of like I would always run and want to be rescued. Um, and I was always like daddy's girl type of thing. So that kind of for me was one of the best things. And yet when did so as you go through the process at the end of the treatment, you do a leaving letter to everybody, that you read out, and And I read this leaving letter out and I thanked him for literally reaching inside and grabbing the addict out of me. That's how it felt physically. And he gave me one of the biggest hugs I've ever felt in my whole life. And I
Yeah.
just thought, "Do you know what? That was incredible." And then his guidance along the way, it was very abrupt, but it was very real. And it was everything he did was always direct, which I absolutely loved because I didn't have to second guess it. It was very direct, and yeah,
Yeah, that sounds like a tough journey in
yeah.
treatment center, Becky,
Mm.
but I can hear
It was brilliant
what the
though.
difference that's made. So talking about ego,
Yeah.
forwarding on, um, when you started coaching,
Mm.
can you think of any examples where your ego, being special, um, got in the way?
Yeah, I think, well, do you know what? I think recently it's tied up a lot with my new diagnoses, as it were. It kind of like makes sense now. Even though I'm quite gobby, I'm very, very sensitive, really sensitive, and I'm okay with that. But I think my ego was in the way, in the sense that why aren't people coming to me? What is it about me? Why are they going?
Mm,
Very childlike kind of thoughts and thinking, I suppose. Um, and also, what I discovered in my coaching is there's a coach and a mentor, and they're very closely linked. And I found that the way that I could stop trying to kind of rescue or teach or, slip back into that ways. But I was very conscious of not being a teacher or a mentor. Um, because first of all, I could jump in at the wrong time, but also like wanting to help people too much. And that ego, who am I to think that I have all the answers, So to actually jump in all the time. And I think um, that for me anyway was a real learning in, you know, just the power in the pause, the silence, And then so I started off with wellbeing coaching, and then I trained in level 5 and supervision, and all of that training over those years has taught me to allow for silence, allow for people to find their own answers, and and that's now what I do.
mm.
I might poke and prod with a few questions, but other than that, I've had to learn that I've not got all the answers. I think that's the biggest one.
Yeah, absolutely. In therapeutic world as well as in coaching world, um, sometimes sometimes we think we're bee's knees. Sometimes other people think that we are.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. Um, so on a slightly different note, I'm wondering how your nearest and dearest would describe your flaws. What do they see in you that maybe your clients and your colleagues don't?
Oh, well. What do they see in me? Well, what? Just trying to think now.
I put you on the spot.
No,
Yeah.
it's good because I said to Alan, it's funny because I said to Alan, once this exhibition's done, that's it. I'm gonna take a break. I'm gonna, calm down, relax a bit. And he goes to me, Becky, there will always be something else.
Okay. So is that a complaint on his part?
I think the poor lad, I think he's put up with so much for 32 years that he knows me. He knows me. He knows that like I'll be looking for the next thing. Um, And I think as well, a lot of people, what people have said, because I come up with loads of ideas, sometimes they don't know what necessarily I do. And so that can be problematic. So my nearest and dearest, what would they say? They would probably say, well, what my mum used to say is, we can tell you're around, Becky, or we can tell you're home because you have everything everywhere. you know. So when I'm working and I'm all in it, artwork, I mean, and it's everywhere. And then it was funny because the during the exhibition, the dining room was like a studio,
Yeah.
and it was everything was everywhere. And as soon as the exhibition went up, I came home and I tidied the dining room, and it was like a new house.
Yeah, no, I get it. I've recently found my kitchen table. Yeah. Mm,
Yeah. So
okay.
they'd probably say I was a little bit oh, I'm trying to describe a word that's not horrible. Um
That's fine. You can use strong language.
well, just like they probably called me mental, to be honest. But with
Okay.
the effing word in the middle of it, it's like, you fucking mental. You just never stop, Becky. You know.
Okay. Okay. So somewhat
Yeah.
on the go. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. And, talking about addictions, I, I do think we have some similarities. I certainly
Yeah.
find my work quite addictive. And sometimes I notice it can get a little bit over the top as an overworking, burning
Yeah.
out, doing too much, too many ideas, as you say.
Yeah.
Um, do you think that some of those kind of addictive traits possibly might translate into your work as well, or is that totally separate?
Oh no, I think you're absolutely right. I think there's a number of things. It's either the addiction or obviously I've got my diagnosis recently of autism as well. And I
Mm,
think when you're fixed on something, for me anyway, when I love something, like when I came and experienced sand with you,
mm,
and I experienced the change, I suppose, the change in my thinking, the change in the way I felt about a lot of things, I was addicted to it in the sense that I thought this is bloody marvelous, this is so magical. Um, and then of course I see everything you've got and I think it's wonderful, and then when it's like, well, we've got half an hour for lunch and I'm legging it to the charity shops.
yeah, those sun symbols are not going to
Yeah.
find themselves, are they? Yeah,
Forget the food, forget lunch, forget resting.
yeah,
I'm off. I'm off.
yeah.
So I think, but to me, I think I know that's who I am. I know that is part of who I am. And I embrace it now. I've got far too many clothes, handbags, shoes. I've got far too many of everything. And I'm really lucky in that sense. But I do think it's part of, I also think, rather than seeing it as a negative, I also think it's part of joy. Finding something that's unique and knowing that this will make a difference, knowing that if someone picked this up in the sand tray session, it will make a huge difference. And I think it's more about excitement. And is it about dopamine? Probably, but
Yeah. Yeah, and I was
um,
so delighted that you picked up the sand work because my I can't remember if I mentioned my very first experience of sand was on executive coaching training in
oh, was
2005.
it?
Yeah,
Wow.
I never even knew that about sand at all, but we had a
Yeah.
day, I had a day out of a 9-day training was dedicated to sand. And
Wow.
and ever since, I don't know anybody apart from me a little bit using sand in coaching specifically rather than
Yeah.
therapy. So I'm really thrilled that you're doing that, Becky. And oh, I'm curious, especially with coaching.
Hmm.
Um, because I know some therapists and counselors do find it a little challenging to introduce creative approaches to their clients.
Yeah.
So, how do you handle those challenges when you introduce your art and sand and whatever other wonderful things you do to your clients? Because I guess some of them might expect it because they know about you, but
Yeah.
do you find people raising eyebrows and go, no, no, I don't do creative stuff?
To be honest, I in the discovery call, which more often than not, we tend to just have a discovery call and we're talking. There's no visual. Uh, attribute to that. But I always explain that I work in very different ways. I always explain that, sometimes I use sand, sometimes I'll use metaphors. Again, part of your training. All of these are beautiful, beautiful things I've worked through. Um, and sometimes I might just be a mentor and tell you what to do. I always say this is how I work because, and I also say to them, I will adapt my coaching. And I said this as a teacher when I was working with all different types of kids. It's my job to adapt my teaching to work with them, not for them to adapt to me. And it's the same with my coaching. So if someone comes to me, I adapt. So I tell them all that I do, but I say to them, it would depend on what you bring to the session as to the way that we work. And I always double check that they're happy for me to, it's permission giving, isn't it? We're taught that in the training, aren't we? Is to ask for permission before we do anything. Because people think, oh, just, but then the other way that I do it is I advertise it as what it is. It's a
Yeah,
group sand session, and
yeah.
then they know clearly what it is.
Fantastic. I basically say to people, if you don't want to work in the sand, go and work with somebody else. So see, being quite
Yeah,
upfront.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, exactly. And it depends. Like tomorrow, I'm doing a spotlight session, which is, completely scientific. It's completely different, with a new lady, and who knows where that'll go. And then, everybody's different. And I think for me anyway, as long as I've got that toolbox of different things, I can dip into whatever I need. I used to walk around, Masha, with an orange suitcase on wheels. That's how I started my coaching business. Everything was in this suitcase, and now I've got a studio.
Well, and I'm delighted that you have your space because, yeah, I used to be mobile when I did a little bit of therapy in schools.
Yeah,
Never again, never again. Um, so Becky, you've got a couple of minutes, a few minutes left. Any anything else you want to say about your flaws that
my
haven't been
flaws.
mentioned?
Oh,
Any regrets? Any
any
mistakes
regrets?
or blunders that you'd be
Oh
willing
my
to
word.
reveal?
So my flaws, there's so many. I said that to you, didn't I? I said, oh my goodness, it might last longer than 40 minutes. But I think my regrets for my business really is not about the transition, not about the changes, not about the new direction, but the amount of things that I've paid for thinking that will be the silver bullet. So I talk a lot about that in my posts, you know, and falling into traps of thinking, right, like those coaches that you mentioned right at the beginning of the podcast, who go, well, if you do this, this, and this, and you pay this money, you'll be, this, and this. And even I would absolutely say for 4 years, if not longer, I followed that crowd. I'm going to charge X amount of money. I deserve it. I'm worth it. Um, because I believe the stories that I was reading and being told was if you don't price yourself accordingly, it shows that you've got no worth, and that people won't come to you because you're not charging enough. And do you know what I've done over the last 2 years? Over the last 2 years in my business, I've gone right back to the beginning when I started my business and I was doing community work. I was doing community projects. I was having wonderful people around my house doing a sand tray. No, I wasn't doing sand then, but doing art sessions or whatever. And of pricing it according to the people I wanted to work with. And and finding the joy back again. So I've been so obsessed, I suppose, in following all these trends that actually I lost sight of why I started in the first place. So it's almost like an absolute welcome relief to have had that experience from my exhibition to then go, I don't want to live in this world of bullshit.
Yeah.
I'll say it. I do
Well,
not want to live in that world.
so we're unlikely to see you advertising the next make your six figure.
No.
income next week. No.
I'd be happy to make, I'd be happy to make 500 quid in the next month. Do you know what I mean? It's honestly, I've done it all. And some of my biggest regrets are things like that. And maybe how I've presented myself on social media, which has not been aligned with who I am whatsoever. But, I'm so grateful the last couple of years, even though it was a shit time, has brought me back to why I originally started in the first place.
Mhm. Yeah, and presenting that false face costs us,
Yes.
doesn't it? It
Yeah.
costs. Uh,
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah. So, is there anything else you want to add um, to what
No.
we discussed already?
No, I don't think so. I think, we can be really hard on ourselves as coaches and therapists. We can be so hard on ourselves. And I think, no matter what people think about therapists being perfect and having it all together all the time and life's, we've got all the answers and shit, we've got our shit together. I think we're all still, we're all flawed in so many different ways and at different times of the year, different times of the months. Some of these behaviors come out a bit higher than the others. Um, but I think the most important thing for me now is just to be honest about those flaws because, this is who I am. Flaws and all. Exactly.
Yeah, thank you so much, Becky. Really loved chatting to you. So, to anybody who's listening, if you enjoyed this video, please like and comment, and I hope to see you soon again. Thank you
Lovely.
very much.